G'day, this is Darren, and today I'd like to share part 2 of my story and my journey. So I think where I want to kick off today is, leading on from where we were last time, and I was sharing how, our family had broken up, parents had gone separate ways, and I was living at home with my mother, and I'm the youngest of 4 children, and so a mother started taking us along to an Anglican church that was at this top of our street, and that's how I came across that thought about forever and who wants to live forever. What would you do with forever? So that's where I was at there, and then so I want to carry on with talking about my experience with the Anglican church, because looking back now, that was something. There was so Anglican churches in New Zealand it's called the Anglican Church. In England it's called the Church of England, and so Anglican comes from Anglo-Saxon, meaning English, the English people, and so it's like the traditional expression of Christianity from England. So nothing good or bad to say about Anglican churches. I mean, the fact that I'm telling the story now means that it had effect on my life, and it introduced me to Christianity and Christian beliefs. And I went to the Sunday school there, and I experienced these things. So so that's cool. It's all well and good. So what I do remember about that, probably leading on to maybe 8 to 10 years old. It's hard to remember exactly. We'd go along to this church, and I remember the services. Like, we'd go in the morning, and we had a vicar, head vicar, I suppose you could say, and he wore the black robes, and he'd preach these, really kind of dry sermons. I don't really remember anything very memorable, or maybe as a kid, nothing stood out to me, and he would chain smoke out the back of the church, which is really interesting to think back in this day and age. And then there was another vicar, a younger vicar, that came along, and it's not just that he was younger, but I remember, I think my mother used to drag us along to evening services. I don't know about drag, but we'd go along, and I probably slept in the pew during that time. But I remember there was something different about that young vicar. Like, not only was he younger and, more kind of out there, but he would get everyone kind of singing and dancing in the aisles and kind of leaping about. But the thing about that was, as weird as it kind of was, they had a real joy. Like, he had a real joy. These people had a real joy, a gladness, a happiness, and there was this peace and joy that they carried. And I remember, I'm sure my mother brought that home with her. Like, I remember it, but I think it had an impact on her too. And my mother used to do housework around the house, and she would always be singing. She always liked to sing, but she would have that same spirit, that same joy, real joy that came from that, and kept her going. I'm amazed at the stuff we got through as a family, and the amazing job that my mother did on her own, raising us and doing all that stuff. So there was that, and that real experience of, like, there's like two sides to it. And the other part of those two sides was the older vicar. I remember sitting in service, and his wife being nearby, and just noticing how she just had a real peace. Like, she was a quiet, gentle person, as I remember, and she just had a real peace. And I remember watching her. I was a very shy boy, and I remember seeing her, and she would close her eyes during the service and just concentrate on God and worship God. And she was just peaceful, and I just thought she just had this confidence and this peace where she could just worship God as if no one else was there, and I remember that there was something about her, something about, she had a relationship with God that included not worrying about anyone else or not fearing anything else around her. And so that stuck with me as well. So those are the things I witnessed as a young man. It's interesting, I never got baptized then. I never got sprinkled. I remember my mother saying to me when I was about 10 or 12, going, "Hey, do you want to be baptized?" And I'm like, that guy, crusty old guy out there, is going to hold me in his arms and sprinkle the water out of this jug on my head. And it's like, no way, I ain't no baby. I'm not doing it. And then I remember my brothers and sisters, I think they all did communion classes. Like, this is what you do to take communion. I remember going up for communion. I was never trained to take communion. It's interesting to me, it's like I kind of circled around not being involved with those religious exercises. And I often look back and think, yeah, I'm glad. I don't want to participate in religion. But there was things about that, like I've just mentioned, that were not religion, like they're not religion. Those things are not the result of religion. So, there's next question, that's not religion. There's religion and there's this methodical thing, and then there's this other thing which is like a personal relationship. So I remembered that. So then getting back to my own personal struggle on the outside is that, not long after that, and I think I started having, I had other health problems that probably other people weren't aware of, and I had other physical challenges, and I've been in and out of hospital for various reasons. But then I think even before I became a teenager, probably I think maybe intermediate school, before I even got to high school, I started getting acne, and really bad acne. And I know, kids have pimples and different stuff, hormonal stuff, but I had really bad acne, and man, that was a struggle. And I haven't thought about this in years. But looking back, I remember now how that really made a dent on me, I remember going through that, and I felt like I was the ugliest kid in school. I just really, really set me back, and it was bad. And feeling like, I felt like I was the ugliest kid in school. I couldn't think of anyone who was more ugly than me, in that respect. And I didn't have a lot of friends, and I never had a girlfriend. They didn't want to know me. I remember the only person that ever punched me at high school was a girl, and it made my cheek swell up because I had an acne cyst, and it was brutal, and I couldn't want for more than to be rid of that problem. So we went to see doctors and looked for solutions, and in the end we ended up going to see a dermatologist, a skin specialist, and he prescribed a product. I don't remember what it's called now, but this product, it kind of dried out your skin, and it was pretty brutal. I think it worked. It certainly helped, but it was brutal. And so as a result, my skin started flaking off. I guess maybe it speeds up like the reproduction or the shedding of skin cells. And so I remember that distinctly. And I'm not sure whether it was 4th or 5th form, going in to do my tech drawing exam. And I was really good at tech drawing, and I wanted to do well in the exam. A couple of subjects I loved was woodwork and tech drawing. English I should have done better. Maths was hard, and I knew it. And science, I just kind of fluked my way, like 5th form science. I just fluked it because science to me was easy. But tech drawing, I liked that subject. I liked the technical things. And so I went into the exam to sit down and do my exam, and my skin was just flaking off all over the place. And it was really hard to concentrate and to do well. And I don't know how I passed that exam, how I got top 3 in my class. I probably would have maybe got a higher place. Aside from that, I don't know. But that was really hard. And yeah, I think, looking back, yeah, that's why I think I left school and struggled having a low self esteem. That was hard, and not a lot of friends didn't know how to fit in. Um, yeah, so it's not all happiness and joy, but I guess you can tell by my demeanour now that I'm well past that now. I've overcome all those things, and it's surprising now that I only remembered it because I was thinking about what was my journey, so I could share it now. And thanks for listening, and hearing my journey. And I hope that that is meaningful to someone. And what I'm going to share in part 3 coming up is how I overcame shyness and how I got past that, and how my self-esteem changed dramatically. So yeah, I'll share that next time. But thanks for listening, and I pray that this blesses someone. And yeah, look forward to part 3, and I'll share about overcoming stuff, and it'll be good. And I hope you tune in and follow that too. Thanks for listening.